Okay. Shall we kick off? Are we all here? Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Empower Cafe. For our panel, we are another series in our hashtag Change the Stats series. Health equity is a business advantage, not a gendered issue. Hell to that. My name is Emma Harris. I am, thank you for the whooping. I am honoured to chair this esteemed panel this afternoon. I am the CEO of Glow London. I'm also the global chair for the alumni for the Marketing Academy, which means I spend a lot of my time supporting and mentoring young women, some of whom I can see in front of me. And I'm very passionate about advancing young women in the workplace, which is why I'm also very proud to be a WACL member. In 2023, we launched our 50% playbook, CEO playbook, which is all about getting 50% of CEOs being female by 2045. And we talked about our 5 levers for change. We all know that diverse workforces outperform non-diverse workforces. The stats say it's about 29%. We all know, I don't have to tell us why women make great leaders. And the study was all about 5 levers of change. But sadly, unless we double down on the growth we've got at the moment, it's unlikely we're going to hit 2045. So we recently launched a hashtag Change the Stats piece, which is all about building on these 5 levers. But the great thing is it's very practical. If you haven't downloaded it yet, please do, because it's all about how to get there. Today, we're going to be talking about how to reframe leadership, the language, how to drive real change. We have an amazing panel who are going to share their personal insights and experience. So I'm going to introduce you all to save time. Sue Todd, CEO of NABS. We have Jody Osman, Chief Growth Officer from Propeller Group. And we have Amina Folarin, who is the UK CEO of the Year, I believe. Whoop for that, everyone.
Thank you. I get weird about that when people say it. I don't know.
You should not get weird about that. That is totally deserved. So, for those of you that don't know, that I also run a movement called Slow the Fuck Down. There was a McKinsey study in 2024 that talked about how women are more likely to suffer burnout. There are a million reasons why that. We carry a lot of the mental load as well as the workload. I personally suffered burnout 3 years ago when I had an out-of-the-blue cardiac arrest, which should have killed me. 91% of people who have an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest die. And of the 9% of people that survive, 60% get brain damage. I was very lucky. Lynn and Tamara, put your hands up. They were my lifesavers. They did the thing of, is there a doctor in the house? And there was not 1, not 2, but 3 doctors in that restaurant that gave me CPR and saved my life. But I stand before you as a very lucky woman who wasn't taking her health seriously enough and wasn't put in an environment where that was prioritised, although I take full responsibility. I've launched a movement called Slow the Fuck Down. It's about helping people unlock the mad hamster wheel that we live in. Life is tough anyway, and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Our fear of other people's opinions, our fear of catastrophization, our need to be perfect and achieve a quest for something we'll never actually attain to. Because guess what? When you get that job or you get that salary or you buy that car, then you want the next thing. So if you don't follow me on LinkedIn, please do, because I talk about this stuff a lot. I've had some canned rules that a lot of people have followed to help protect our health. Have I followed them all myself? I will share that at the end of the week. Anyway, enough about me. Obviously, this panel is therefore very pertinent for me. We're going to go into some questions for the panel. I'm going to start with you, Sue. What do you think are some non-negotiables for business regarding women's health today? You're someone who sort of deals with the other end of it when organisations haven't looked after their people. What do you think are the non-negotiables that we should all think about?
Well, I think
turn your mic on. Do the little thing to the right.
Is on. Hello?
No.
Hello. Hi.
There we go.
There we go. I think the most important thing is that every business needs to be having this conversation. And this conversation is driven by WACL, a reasonably new one, I would say. I've been in the industry 25 plus years, and I think the big sea change around women's health in the last 5 years has been a little bit of an acknowledgement that we're not the same and some of our health needs might be different. And that doesn't have a consequence of us being any lesser or weaker or incapable of things. We just need some adjustments, some accommodations in work to help us thrive. So I think the non-negotiable is to have the conversation, admit that there are some specifics, and you mentioned one, burnout, and the other one, the two biggest reasons that women leave work in the UK are burnout and menopause. And those are the two conversations that I think in the last 5 years we have started to see a dial shift on, and we're starting to see businesses lead on changing policy. But my big sort of non-negotiable is we really need to have the conversation about women's health for the whole of their working careers. And actually, we need policy, but we need policy that gets rooted into practice. Because I think sometimes what happens is we are quick to get the policy in place, and we need that for the guardrails and for signalling intent that this really matters and that we as businesses want and as leaders to see change. But the embedding of it into practice is where the hard yards are actually. And so one of the things that we do at NABS is speak to a lot of managers and a lot of leaders about the implementation and the embedding of things. Because a lot of the feedback we get from people in the industry is, my company has this policy, but it's yet to turn into practice on the ground. My manager doesn't quite get it, or the person whose team I'm in doesn't seem to know that this is what we're doing. So I think we're making really great strides around the big areas that affect a lot of women in work, like menopause and like burnout, and autoimmune conditions, as we know, are more prevalent in women, and period issues and endometriosis, and lots of specific health-related issues that affect women, obviously much more than men, or not men at all. But we've got to embed the policies into practice. Policy is where we should start, but we have to get really good at the conversation of saying the hard yards are in our teams with our managers and leaders, making sure there's environments where this stuff actually hits the road.
I love that. Have the conversation. This is not about man bashing, but we often talk about, if it was men that had periods, would they have 2 days off a month to deal with it? So it's bringing that conversation. This is important. This is huge impact. Jody, as part of the Propeller team that have brought us this beautiful cafe, big round of applause for Propeller. A big part of what we're doing here is about making women feel safe. There have been issues in Cannes. Can you just talk to us a little bit about the role you think the cafe has played in making women feel safe at Cannes?
Yeah, and I think to give credit where credit's due, a big shout out to Louise Watson and Karen Stacey.
Absolutely. Where's Lou?
Probably hiding. It's been a full-on week, and I think it's one that, and Louise doesn't like to take credit, which is why she's probably hiding, but she deserves so much credit for the work and effort that's got into bringing everyone together. And Karen and the team at WACL, plus all the Propeller team that have just got stuck into the week. But I guess it started out as trying to create a safe space for women in Cannes, which I think was an important step forward. I heard a talk earlier on today that was talking about how you don't just create a community. A community is formed by facilitating conversation around the key matters, often the key tensions in an industry, the things you need to change. And I think that's what it's brought us together here this week. The amount of conversations that have taken place where I've had people feeding back that it's great, I finally feel seen and heard. And I think that's so important, and it's got quite emotional. I'd say I'm not a particularly emotional person, but I keep them under control, probably too much of the time. But
Go on, cry on about it.
I guess as well as everyone being seen and heard, and I think there's a lot of people here together, so it was a safe space for women that's just grown into a place that people want to come and hang out. I think there's a lot of men that have fed back to me this week that it's been described as heaven. It's been described as just a place that is much more relaxed and calmer, but some really big conversations going on. Some are really positive and inspiring in that way. Others are just tough truths that we just have to be tackling. And I think for me, everyone's been seen and heard. I've been listening, I've been learning, and I think I've learned a hell of a lot just over the course of this week around health and around women's health. Some of it is applicable to men as well. So for me, it's just been inspiring for a lot of people, and I guess it's brilliant for Propeller and Wackle to have helped empower us all to come here this week and have these really important conversations. And it's just the beginning of it. I think we need to keep having those conversations, keep learning. But yeah, I think it's been a big impact that's been made this week.
Yeah, love that. I was talking to Louise last night about it, actually. It's been challenging because this is a safe space. It means a lot of the issues that have happened have been brought here. But thank God we have it, right? Because I don't know about everyone else. I've not been here all week where I haven't seen people I know and come here for hugs and hellos, and it feels like home in a chaos of Cannes. It feels like home. So I absolutely agree with you. More to do, but thank God we've got Empower. Amina, what is the role of leadership in setting this tone and creating the culture? As a female CEO, I imagine this is really important to you. How do you create that safe place to talk about health concerns and bring it to the fore as a leader?
Oh, my mic's on. Some of the things that we have done is really engage with our workforce. So I noticed that there was a drop-off in our staff retention for women coming back from maternity leave. And I didn't understand why, because we had what I thought was quite a good maternity policy. I thought it was good because I implemented it 5 years ago. So we engaged with our women's ERG, our employee resource group, and said, what's going on? Talk to us about the maternity policy. Talk to us about your experience returning back to work, your experience going off on maternity leave. What's that been like for you? And actually was quite surprised at some of the stories. And so I asked to send a representative to my leadership team so that my leadership team could hear the stories as well. So I think it's really important as a leader, yes, that you have to lead the way, but also you need to take your leadership team along with you, because I can't solve the problems of the organisation on my own. And that led to a full revamp of our family-friendly policies. And we've moved away from the idea of maternity leave or adoption leave. And actually we have one policy that means that you can go off and have the same amount of leave regardless. We've also implemented returner coaching, because one of the things that we found, the reason why women were dropping out was not because we didn't have good maternity pay, because we did. Most people get about 6 months and then it increases up to a year's full pay. But actually it was the experience once they returned to the workforce that was really damaging. So now we have closed coaching circles just to help women integrate back into the workforce, back from maternity leave. But I think from my perspective, I'm quite honest. Sometimes if it's that time of the month, I've got quite a few men in my leadership team and I'll say, look, guys, today is not the day. I'm not feeling great. It's the time of the month. And the first time I did it, they were like, they kind of stopped in their tracks and didn't know how to react. And I said, what? You're both married. Both of you women have periods. What's the issue? And now it's something that they're pretty relaxed about. I found myself in a meeting with about 10 of the women from my organisation. We just had an away day and we were all talking about our various experiences with our periods. So I think, to summarise, as a leader, you have to lead from the front. You have to encourage people to have conversations. You also have to create a safe space for them. So one of my team has experienced quite a few losses relating to pregnancy. And she came to speak to me and said, can I write a guidebook for the organisation of how to speak to women that have had pregnancy loss, but also how to support them? I was like, absolutely. And that's something that we shared across the organisation and they got really good feedback.
That's brilliant, because often I think it is, you can put policies in place and learning, but it's about having the culture of conversations, because someone can say one wrong thing, that return from maternity, people can just say one wrong thing and not realise the language they're using and the impact that can have on people. And it is very uncomfortable for people that have, when people return to the office after a loss, no one knows what to say. What are the questions that you ask? But creating that culture of openness, really, really important. Love that.
I'll just add, Sue made a point about policy and lots of organisations having policies, but what does it mean? And that's something that we've been, when people come to me and say, oh, can we have a policy? I'm like, what's it legislating against? And so what are we doing about the thing? So we do have a menopause policy, but when it was first written, I was like, but we're not offering anything. We're not doing anything different. So I made my team go away and think, okay, what is the support that women need? So we try and also incorporate advice in the policy so that it's more of a guidebook as well as something legislative people can default to.
Love that. It's about the right culture. It does amaze me, the whole sort of fear of people saying they're pregnant and the issues around maternity. This cafe, by the way, was Louise's maternity project. That's how she calls it. It does amaze me of this sort of issues around, sort of shrouded in issues around all this stuff. And I always say, if you've got a male boss you're uncomfortable having these conversations with, remember he came out of someone's vagina as well. There we did. I got vagina on a panel. Thank you. That was a first. And why shouldn't we? We all come out of one, or a stomach. Anyway, Jody, just going back to changing the stats, how in Propeller are you addressing this? What approaches and solutions have you guys put to help balance? And what importantly, what benefits have you seen to your business by having a more balanced workforce?
At Propeller, we're very lucky to have good stats in terms of associate directors who provide a lot of the foundation of our leadership team. It's 80% women.
Hell yes.
And it's one that gives us some really good influence in the decision making. And additionally to that, we have steering groups across the business. We have lots of people feeding into our policies. I think it's something at the board level, there's also a lot of interest in what we can be doing and what we can be doing better. It's been positive to see. I mean, Propeller have featured in a couple of recent best places to work lists. So it feels like we're on the right direction with what we're doing. But all of the time, I know sort of we're then looking at, well, what else can we learn? What can we be doing better? We've just rolled out new maternity and paternity policies because that was something that it just felt we were not quite at the level we should be, and it's above probably industry average, but industry average is not good enough. So let's keep pushing on that. So it's constantly looking at that, and the business benefit for us is the retention of stuff. So the team of associate directors, we've got the average sort of time in the business is 10 years plus. So when you retain really good talent, they've got such a strong foundation there for you. And as a business, I mean, my role is focused on new business and growth. And it's a really easy sell for me to talk about a service business where I know we have just a fantastic team, the expertise, the experience there. And ultimately, I was looking at thinking, if you've got happy team, happy people, you've got happy clients. So the retention of staff links to the retention of clients as well. So it's given us the foundation of growing is having that sort of, I think, diversity within the business, in the decision making, in the policies that we do. And as I said, just constantly striving to keep improving. What else can we do? What can we do better? Because I think there's scope for every business to just do something a little bit better. Absolutely.
This is not just about doing it because you're nice. You know, being a women's health hero is good for business. Amina, what have you put in place?
I think I spoke about some of those things in my early answer, but one of the big changes for us was also around paternity leave. I read a study that it's a small study, but it was in Quebec, that actually when they increased paternity leave, it helped reduce the paternity tax on women because more men were helping at home. And I thought that was something that was really important, that helping gender equality is not just about improving things for women, it's also making sure the men are there supporting. So we do have better, I know the industry average isn't great, but we do have really good paternity leave. And, you know, that was our small way of saying, well, actually, these men can help their wives at home and partner with them much more. And again, encouraging leadership to shout about taking time off. So one of my peers, he took nearly 4 months out of the business and had it on his out of office, I am on paternity leave.
Love that.
And that sent such a good signal to the organisation. It encouraged other men to do it. And now they pretty much all do it and speak about it quite publicly. I'm off on paternity leave and I won't be coming back until the end of it. And also they can split their paternity leave because one family, one size doesn't fit all. So us dictating you have to take all 4 months off in one go maybe doesn't work for that family. So we've also kept it quite flexible that they can use the time in a way that works for them.
I love it. So important for that role modelling. One of my big frustrations is when male friends of mine say, oh, I'm babysitting. And I'm like, you never hear a woman say they're babysitting, do you?
Maybe we should start.
Just adding to that, I think paternity, I mean, we looked at that, it's shared childcare, it's a team effort. I heard someone else talking on a panel the other day and they said that a third of dads are embarrassed or scared to say you're doing the school run or the pickup, which I would have to say I was probably one of those third. It was sort of one, I guess, so probably a bit of a always thing, if I'm not working taking time out, it's like I'm slacking, even though at the end of the day, it's just adjusting your schedule. Everywhere at the end of the day, if you've got children, they need to be picked up at a certain time. It's a non-negotiable. They've got to be there. But by doing that, I was sort of compromising the relationship I've got with my partner. Ultimately, I found myself at one time, and I got called out for this, that ultimately I was saying, I've got to pick up the kids because my partner can't do it. And she said, why did you have to put me in the explanation there? And
Totally.
it just shouldn't be the default that the mum picks up. It's a team effort. And for me, that's the communication in the business, is normalising that. So it's perfectly fine to go and do a school run. It's not going to impact on your performance in your job. It's just something you just have to do, just as you have to have lunch. It is just one that, just sharing that experience, I guess, as a dad and someone as a leader in a business, that you just got to normalise that.
Totally. Sue, can you just talk a bit more about the benefits of putting these things in place? I'm sure you're full of stats.
Yeah, there's lots of stats. And actually, the playbook's got some brilliant stats in it, I have to say, just to give everyone a shout out again to that, particularly on this topic, because I think it's relatively new to talk about health policies having an impact on business outcome. I think it's been seen in the past as more as part of people's welfare packages and duty of care, but actually there's some brilliant stats in the playbook and some links out to some work that show that it does really make a difference to performance and retention as well. I mean, I think the broad thing that's going on in the industry is that there is definitely a lot of businesses implementing good policies around women's health, for sure, particularly on menopause and burnout, which are probably the biggest two that affect the biggest numbers of women in our industry. But I think the businesses that are doing it the best are the ones that are doing exactly what we were just talking about. They're the ones who are also acknowledging that some of this stuff's hard to embed, and some of it's time consuming, and sometimes you can get it wrong. And sometimes when business pressures comes, you have to question whether as a business you've fully, kept true to what you've said you're going to try and do, because it does become on a day-to-day level sometimes difficult to always find the time to make sure those policies have turned into a great culture with high empathy that's creating an environment for people to raise things that they're struggling with or that are uncomfortable or embarrassing. So I think you have to be, I think rooms like this, and then even more private rooms, actually at NABS, we get quite a lot of conversations with leaders privately where they say it's good to share things they found hard to do and things that they've done that haven't worked and occasions where they've got it wrong. So I think when you're trying to implement this sort of level of change in work, which I think, Wackle is completely driving with the cafe and everything it does, I think you have to be prepared to have spaces where you say, I haven't always got it. As a leader myself of a 35 people business, I definitely am not getting it all right. And I think you can get scared that you're going to get called out for, and my topic is mostly on mental health. What if I haven't got it right with somebody? What if I didn't quite spot it early enough? What I didn't have the conversation well enough? You hold yourself up to these really high standards as businesses, and you can't always get it right. And you can rectify that for sure if you're aware. But I think it's important to be honest, because I feel like a little bit of a learner driver on some of these new things. Some of them are untried and tested. So you've got to learn from each other and from other people who've tried stuff that might be ahead of you and hear what they did that worked and didn't work, because it's new. Yeah. So I think being honest as a leader about that is really important.
I love that. And I think, if we can learn from that experience, one of the things you just said was conversations that are embarrassing or difficult. And the thing is, the more you have the conversations, the more we've got to change that being embarrassing. It's a bit like, it used to be okay to smoke indoors, now it isn't. We can change if we are the change we want to see by having these conversations. I love the fact that you're talking to your leadership team about your periods. Let's all do that. We're nearly out of time actually, so I just want to ask you all, what one piece of advice or approach or word of caution would you leave the audience in order to be a women's health hero and just keep moving us towards this such important gender balanced business that we all know will benefit us? One piece of advice. Who's up? Jody?
Okay, I'll go. In my career has mainly been new business, and the thing that's probably led to success in new business is just being curious, trying to find different solutions for clients as a way of winning new business. But I think just applying that to how you run your business as well, there will always be that different approach you can take. And I think being flexible is absolutely key. So finding new ways of working that probably improve how you currently work and adapting to people's lives so that you can give them the foundation they need. And I think building on your point, embracing what potentially you don't want something to feel awkward, just have those conversations. And for me, it's asking people, are you okay? Often following up with, are you really okay?
Yeah.
And just being prepared to then try and help and support and do the best you can to guide that person with whatever's going on, and to being understanding and just listen to what that is and see what you can do to help.
Love that.
Yeah.
I think the word of caution that I would exercise with my inclusion hat on is intersectionality. All of the things that impact women, white women in particular, disproportionately impact black women. You know, we've talked about kind of preparing for motherhood as being the kind of next thing in my journey. And actually, I was really shocked at the statistics of, you know, black women are 30% more likely to die during childbirth in the UK and North America than white women. So I think really educate yourself on the disproportionality and also the intersection of how this impacts other women in your organisation. Because I think it can be really easy to see women as a homogenous group, and actually we all have different experiences in the workplace and also health experiences also.
Absolutely. I love that. Sue?
So nick the policies of other people if they're ahead of you. So, you know, get the playbook, look at Channel 4s, look at Adam and Eve's, look at anybody else who's got some policies that maybe you haven't got yet. And yeah, get them in place, because then you've got the guardrails and you're signalling intent about what you want to change. But then find the space and the time to actually put the stuff into practice. And I think the first step on putting it into practice is making sure your day-to-day managers, you know, your frontline people who have the conversations or spot that something's wrong, or have to create the environment in a meeting where someone feels comfortable to say, I need to go home because I'm really struggling with something around their health. It's the frontline managers who need the help and the training and the support, and they're the ones that have got to get comfortable with it. So train them would be because the policy on its own will not embed it into the culture.
This is change. This is embedding cultural change. So what I'm hearing, and thank you all, that's been, you know, really brilliant conversation. And it is about having those conversations, have the discussion, be curious, do the research, find out the facts, make the uncomfortable conversations comfortable. We can all be women's health heroes. I have to say a big shout out to my husband, who actually does the school run more than me and never complains. So thank you, Danny. This has been brilliant. Let's keep driving the change. Please download the playbook. It's got so much brilliant stuff in there. Talk to people, talk to your clients, talk to people you know about embedding some of these changes. And once again, thank you, WACL, for all the support and for Impeller, and thank you to my panel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.